All right, teachers, welcome to the second and a half week of ELPAC testing. Some comments and people have reached out to me to ask a couple questions about administration because it's the thing nobody talks about because of the testing security itself. So with that said, I'm going to give you some tips to set up your testing environment. So due to the confidentiality of the test, this video will include how to set up your testing environment, but it does not actually include any pictures of testers, students, or the testing materials at all, because that would actually be violating our ELPAC affidavit. Before we get started on our tips and tricks, I want to introduce myself. I am Erin Kaluza, and this is my 8th year administering the ELPAC test. Each year I do a little bit of tweaking to make it a little bit easier for myself and for my students. Today, as of the 22-23 school year, I will be testing 386 students in the month of February. So stick with me as I give you some tips and tricks for the ELPAC testing. You will notice on the screen here that you will see the ELPAC affidavit. This is an affidavit that's in a PDF form for people who will be coming in and out of the testing room or have any access whatsoever to secure documents. This will need to be signed by anybody who will be in and around the ELPAC testing. If you are administering the test, since it is a digital test, you will be signing that affidavit online in order for it to open up to you the testing materials. Otherwise, anybody who's going to be in the room needs to sign the security affidavit. Prior to testing, I run a report for our students so that I have access to their student ID number, their last name, first name, student ID for the school, and also their grade. Because remember, the tests are divided by 9, 10, and then 11 and 12. By having these numbers, I then transfer them, usually by label, to an actual index card, which you'll see in the upper frame above me. This allows you to have the student cross-reference information like their name and their ID number and their grade in the event when they are logging into the actual test itself, they have access and they know that they've done it correctly. On the left of me in the video, or the right of me if you're watching this, you will see an example of what it would look like if it was handwritten. So the SSID numbers on the top, the name of the student, last name first, first name second, their student ID number, as well as their grade. Again, when you're giving the speaking portion, if you have any district officials or someone else giving that test, you can hand this card directly to them to keep yourself organized. In the case of our exam, we utilize a room that is large enough for 2 testers to be present and testing security not to be an issue. So you want a space where either you have, ideally, if you have multiple rooms that are soundproof, that would be perfect to utilize. However, if you don't, please make sure that you spread your testers, at least for the speaking portion, out far enough so that each student cannot hear the other respondent's answer. When it comes to giving the listening, reading, and writing tests, make sure that you've spread the students out so that they cannot see each other's Chromebooks or computers, and also they cannot hear any headphones. So if you have headphones that for noise canceling, that will help you in the best way possible. In these pictures right here is set up for the actual speaking portion itself. Please make sure that you're located near an outlet of some kind because the tester will want to plug in both their computer and also the student computer that they have brought for testing so that they don't die in the middle of a speaking portion. Again, ideally, it would be better if they are in that location and constantly plugged in so that the computers are set up. Again, and let me reiterate that make sure you cannot hear someone else across the room or in another location. The ideal location would be little rooms that are soundproof. Finally, some last sorts of tips for you to remember when you're doing the speaking portion. 1, have a space for students to wait. This could be an outside of the testing area where they can't hear anything and or another room, depending upon where you're at and also the temperature that's happening. Next, call enough students out for each tester. Make sure that if you have 3 testers, you have 3 students ready to go and 2 waiting on deck and or 3. Keep the minimum amount of students outside in the on deck circle just because of the fact that you are currently not wanting to interrupt any instructional minutes because students will be responsible for making up those assignments. Also, it is also very important to note, what is the time restraints for your testers? What time will lunch be happening? What time are they leaving? So that you know how long or when you need to stop pulling students. To err on the side of caution, I would suggest giving each student at least 30 minutes to complete the speaking portion. So if that is the case and your testers are leaving at 3 o'clock, you should stop having them test at 2:30. So stop pulling students around 2 o'clock so that they're not waiting or missing time of that class that particular day. Some tips for the listening, reading, and writing portion. Make sure that you have some scratch paper for students to write on. You will be collecting this as it needs to be destroyed after the test is over. Headphones are required. I suggest not allowing students to use their own headphones. If possible, have your school district or school fund or purchase headphones for each of the students. Make sure you set those up ahead of time as if it's like a classroom prep so that students aren't looking and fumbling around for the headphones. Pen and pencil for notes, always provide it so that students aren't scrambling or trying to find things and you're collecting all the materials back all at one time. It prevents students from taking the scratch paper and putting it in their backpack. A treat. I am a huge fan of Jolly Ranchers for the test. I know not everybody would agree with that because sugar, but it goes a long way for a student who is nervous. It gives them something to appreciate while taking the test. Some students will eat it in the beginning. Some students will do it in the middle of the test. A quiet environment. That should go without saying, but just in case, you want a quiet environment for the students. Reminder that cell phones, AirPods, watches need to be off and stowed in backpacks away from the student. They cannot have any electronic devices in their possession, which also means you too cannot have electronic devices in the testing room itself. And last but not least, this should go without saying, make sure you have a smiling face and wish the student luck as their nerves are already all the way up to 11 at this point. Thank you for watching, and this is your ELPAC tips in less than 10 minutes. I hope you guys have a great start to your next testing week, and hopefully it goes smooth and you're ready to go.